we're here to talk about our daughter Nikki, and we have two girls, and Nikki was our younger, and she passed away January 3rd, 2013, and she was 20 years old. She died of a heroin overdose, and it has changed our life forever. It has changed our family dynamics forever. It has changed what I thought my future was going to be forever. It's changed everything. It is an experience like no other.
I miss her with all my heart. I mean, it's just, I think about her every day. And it's just very hard not having her around, not seeing her smile, not seeing her do the things that she should have been doing.
You know, as we get older, you begin to prepare for your own personal, like passing it. You know, okay, where are we gonna bury ourselves? What are we gonna do? But you don't ever plan for a child. You never plan for a child. And you know, trying to make those decisions, and where do you go to do that? And how do I find someone to help me do that?
I thought both of the brothers were probably the most compassionate, honest people out of the three funeral services that we interviewed. They had kids, and they related, they could relate to it, and they've been in the business a long time.
It's not as though you're doing a job interview, but for us, it was, we are doing the final closure of what we are going to get to see of our child. You know, you just got this feeling that you know, like he knew this wasn't an 80-year-old person. This was our daughter, and our other daughter was in there. My sister was in there with his brother who had lost a child was in there, and you know, he's contending with all these personalities, but for the most part, really trying to find out is what is going to give you the most amount of peace, and whatever that is, we will do whatever it takes to make this to be the experience that you need this to be, so that you can be assured that you know that you were happy with what had taken place. So when we kind of, at that point, we pretty much knew that this was the route that we were going to go, and so we were going to go pick out a casket. And we got up and we're walking towards the room, and he stopped, and he turned around and he said, "I want you just to stop for 1 minute here." And we kind of stopped, and he goes, "I know that," he goes, "you know, it gets real now." He goes, "You know, we've been talking about all this stuff, and we've been talking about what plans and what the card's going to look like and the whole thing." He said, "But when you go into this room," he goes, "this is picking out a casket." He goes, "And this is real now." And he goes, "And this will take your breath away." And I kind of thought, well, that was interesting, you know. And we went in the room, and literally, we were all like, I mean, it like my daughter Brittany, literally, she couldn't even go in. She turned around and just burst into tears and left. And I remember walking through the room just with this rapid heart rate, just thinking, oh my God, just keep it together, because it was that. But he knew that was going to have that effect on us. And when we had gone to the next day, we went to another organization, and the guy took us in there. He was like, "Okay, let's go look at the casket." And so we were going to pick out a pair of shoes at this store. There was not even
an ounce of compassion,
any kind of recognition that this might be kind of weird for you because you're picking out your daughter's casket, or this may take your breath away somewhat. And I thought, they don't have any idea really how this feels. And it was at that very moment when we walked, and I said, we've had enough here, thank you. And we said, we just have to go. And I went back, and I told him, and I said, I want you to understand, I said, that was the deciding factor, right? That we had already committed to another apartment, so we had to go, because it wasn't like we wanted to just, you know, to kind of, you know, not show up for that. But that was the deciding factor right there. I was like, this man understands how the emotional impact of picking out a casket, what this is going to be. The fact that they were just like, you know, take as much time as you need, and you let us know whenever you're ready. And I thought that was awesome. I mean, it was as though we were their only customer, and it is a business, but you don't ever want to feel like a customer. You want to feel as though they are part of your family, and that they have lost, you know, like that, you know, they want to make it as accommodating to you. And they were absolutely fabulous.
I really didn't want to go.
He didn't want to go at all.
I was just not interested in the least. And it was kind of strange, because when we went to the funeral home the day that we buried her, Dave was standing there, and I knew Dave from my brother, And I was like, thank you so much for coming. He said, I'm the grief counselor. And I was like, you're kidding me. And he said, no. He said, I want you to come. He said, the first session starts in about 3 weeks. And if it weren't for Dave, I wouldn't have come. I would have sent Guy off and give her a kiss on the cheek and say, you know what, I just can't do this. But it was very helpful. I mean, it was, you say things in front of other people and you get it out. Just get it out of your system. And Dave is just a very easygoing, easy to talk to, very understanding, and you can get through it. He helps you through it. And he gives you some pointers. But for the most part, there's no handbook to this. There really isn't, and everybody grieves differently. And it's been hard on both of us, but it's the grieving class is what I called it. It was very helpful.
I think I tend to be the kind of person that I don't need help. I can fix this. I can fix this. And after losing Nikki and realizing I couldn't fix her, I thought, I'm not trying this one on my own. There's sometimes you just have to say, this is bigger than me. And several of the people were coming back for second and third classes, which I thought was very interesting. And the people that had come back, the progression that they had made apparently from the first session to that second and third one were so, were like exponential changes that they had made in the sense of just actually being able to speak, where at the first meetings, like I said, they weren't even talking at all. And I thought that you do need this. You have to have that support group of people that have gone through what you've gone through. There's no guidebook to this. And so what is for you may not be for you and may not be for you. But in the end, our goal is all the same, is to kind of make the journey through the sadness part, and the whole thing of, no, you're not going crazy. This is just grieving. And
yeah, you're not crazy, you're grieving.
I think in the end he was glad that he went to the classes, but it was
absolutely.
In the beginning, I was not sure if he was going to make it or not.
My husband and I had been married for 26 years, and he was fine one moment, and the next I was doing CPR, and I kept him alive till the ambulance got there, but they lost him in the emergency room. And I had to deal with those horrible words that you think will never be said to you, and that's, we did all we could. He didn't make it. And 3 months later, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So I sold my home and moved back to the St. Louis area to become a caretaker for my parents. And during the 18 months that I helped Dad with cancer, my mom was affected by Alzheimer's. So I ended up being a caretaker for two parents for 4 years immediately after losing a husband. And my parents were the ones that had their funeral at Stygar's. Stygar's was absolutely awesome, or both of my parents had pre-planned their funeral with Stygar's. And my dad was an engineer, and some of those people are really detail-orientated to the nth degree, and Stygar's was just absolutely awesome about meeting every single one of my dad's wishes. And it made it so easy on the family because I didn't have to deal with it. Dad knew exactly what he wanted, and he had it written down at Stygar's ahead of time, and they were able to pull it off, and it was absolutely wonderful. And my mom's funeral, they were so attentive to everything. She didn't actually have many plans. She said, just do it like you did Dad's. It was after my mother died. I went into a really severe depression. I think that I had probably not grieved my husband because I was so busy taking care of both parents that I didn't have time to think or experience, and I shut off all of that and went straight into the caregiving. But then after my mom died, it just hit me that I wasn't just missing my mom, but now I'm grieving everybody at the same time, and I was really, really in bad shape. What happened is, in the depths of my depression, I really got to the point where I didn't see any point of going on. I had lost everybody that cared about me, and I'm in a strange town and didn't have any friends, and everybody says you got to start over, and I had no clue how to do that. And that's when I got a postcard from Stygar's funeral home telling me about a new grief group that was being led by Dave Rispoli. And that was the first grief group that they had. And I was so depressed I didn't know if I could even make it to that, but it did say call for more information. And I picked up the phone and I called because I knew I needed help. And that's when Dave Rispoli answered. He had such a kind, caring voice over the phone that I knew it was somebody that might be able to help. So I made a commitment to go to the grief group, and I can't thank him enough. I can say to this day that if it wasn't for Dave Rispoli, I wouldn't be here.
Well, my husband Richard was 68 years old when he passed away last September 14th, 2013. It was 11 days before our 42nd wedding anniversary. And it was very sudden and, of course, a shock, as it always is when we lose a loved one or somebody that we've spent so much time with. A state of disbelief that it was actually going on, like surreal, like this is not happening, because you don't anticipate anything happening when they're perfectly okay. We had just come from my granddaughter's birthday party, and he had come home to sit in his chair to watch a ball game like he usually does. And I told him I was going to the grocery store and I would be back shortly. And while I was gone, he went upstairs and just went into the bedroom and passed away. The first experience I had with Stygar was when my niece's little baby passed away. He was only 3 months old. And of course, we have a pretty large family, and we all came to the funeral home to Stygar. And I was so impressed by the gentleness with which they treated my niece, and how sad her heart was that she lost her little boy. You know, how organized and professional everyone was, not ever knowing that I would ever need such a service anytime in the near future. And didn't think about that at all. But when my husband did pass away, the first person that I called, or the first thing I thought about, was to call Stygar. And I can't say enough about them. You know, when you plan a wedding or you plan something that's joyous, there's so much more time. But when you're planning a funeral, you have maybe 4 days, 4 good days. And during that time, there's so much to do. And the people at Stygar, especially Lila, who is, as far as I'm concerned, an angel here to help other people. I mean, she embraces you, she holds your hand, she walks you through everything, you know, and she's so kind and so compassionate. You know, it made the process a little bit more gentle and sweeter to be able to have someone like that help you. And I mean, everything was in place as it should be. They guide you along the way of what has to be done next, because you don't know from day to day what you're going to be doing. And when you're at the funeral home, they just kind of guide you along the way and let you know this is what has to take place next, and we're going to help you. You know, when my husband passed away, I didn't know anything about grief counseling, and people, you know, who had lost a loved one before said, Kathy, you need to try and get into a grief counseling group. And that sounded pretty good to me, not knowing what it was all about. But the first time that I went to grief counseling, with Stygar, I was also amazed at the number of people there. I mean, you realize that you're not the only one that's lost someone. The whole room is filled with people who have lost people that they loved. And some of them very tragic, some of them who were very sick, some of them who were just all of a sudden like my own husband, some of them who lost their sons or their daughters, and as well as their husbands or their wives. And it's a place that we can all come together because we all have one common bond, and that's that we lost someone. We can cry together, we can explain, we can talk about our loved ones, and we all understand about that. And that grief counseling group, was my first experience at starting to work through my grief. Not going around it, but going through it. And I'm still doing that. Still trying to find my way without my husband. But the support that's in that grief counseling group is just an unbelievable support. When I first started coming to grief counseling and I brought my granddaughter, I called David. I had gotten his card from Lila, and she said, Kathy, just call him and let him know that you want to attend the next session. So I did call him. And I asked him, I said, would it be okay if I brought my granddaughter? My granddaughter's 18 years old, and my husband and I raised her from the time she was a baby. So she really lost her grandpa as well as her father at the same time, and she was suffering very much. And I asked if it was okay if I brought her, and he said, absolutely. So when I brought her, I didn't know how she was going to react because the room, of course, was filled with older people. She was the youngest person there. But she has a very distinct sense of who she is and how she can express herself and the feelings that she has. And David was so gentle and so kind to be able to bring some of those feelings out in her, that she was able to get it out of her system, and she could talk and she could cry. And she realized too that there were other people in that room, who had lost people that they loved just as much as we had. But it was a sense of relief for her. And I can remember saying when we left there, I said, well, Taylor, how do you think that group was? And she said, I'm so glad I came because I feel better. I feel better that I came, and I want to come back again. And David is very instrumental in his kindness. He's compassionate. He understands. He's, I can't have enough adjectives about David because he is just a very kind, caring man, and he's in the right place with all the right people where he needs to be.
I was married to the lady for 24 years, 11 months, and 28 days, just shy of 25 years. Yes, I went through Stygar. I wouldn't have thought of going anywhere else. I didn't know what to expect. I had never been to a grief session before. And there must have been maybe 12 or so, maybe 14 people in the room. And when we first went into the room, it was like a morgue. Nobody was saying anything. Everybody was sitting there with white ashen faces, staring at each other. But as time went on, everybody sort of got to be friends with everybody else. We were there to support each other. As we would go around the room and tell of our personal experiences, other people could go and relate to it. And some of them would go and say afterwards, well, mine wasn't as bad as what yours was, type of thing. So if you're able to help somebody else in that session, it was fun. They showed videos. We had a lot of discussion within the group. And as I say, the group got very close to each other.
We were married 42 years. This past week, it would have been our 42nd wedding anniversary. He passed away last July. He had been sick for quite some time, and I had taken care of him, and ended up falling and going into the hospital, and within 3 days, he had passed away. I called Stygar's at 3 a.m. from the ICU at Barnes St. Peter's Hospital, and from that moment on, I was just so taken care of. They were so there for me at every step. They led me through the process. Like I said, early on, gave me advice as to what I needed to do, how they could help me. Since my husband's body was donated to Warshu Medical School, they helped with the transportation. He also donated his corneas, which again was some logistics had to take place, and they took care of all of that. Then once my son and I wanted to plan his memorial, again, they sat down with us. We went through it step by step, everything we needed to do. The process, they made it just painless. It was so wonderful. And even after the fact, they called me, wanted to know how I was doing. Just could not have been nicer. It was just one of the most wonderful experiences after going through something so tragic as a death that I could, possibly have gone through. I had no idea that something like that was available. I received a letter in the mail telling me about a grief group that would be getting together on Tuesday evenings for about 5 weeks, and kind of thought to myself, boy, this sounds like a really good fit for me. Family and friends were there, but I felt that this was probably going to be people that were going through the same thing I was, and they could probably understand more what I was going through. So I called Dave, his name was on the letter, and told him I'd like to join the group, and came to my first meeting, and I was just overwhelmed. The participants were all going through exactly what I was going through. It couldn't have been a better fit for me. Just made some wonderful friends. We all were sharing, the same type of grief, even though some were husbands, some were wives, all different relationships. But we all seemed to have that same common core. We were all grieving, and it really made a difference in my grief journey. I ended up going through a 5-week session. I ended up signing up for another 5-week session, and that too just kind of got me where I needed to be. It was just a wonderful experience. Dave is one of a kind. The most compassionate person I think I've ever met in my entire life. He made the group what it is. We came in, he just made everybody feel at ease. There was no pressure, there was not a lot of questions asked. We were just kind of on our own. If we wanted to participate, fine. If we didn't, that was fine too. We just all felt at ease with Dave, and he's just that type of person. He's just absolutely wonderful. The other thing about Stygar's, at Christmas, which of course is always the hardest holiday to go through, especially your very first one, they had something called a holiday remembrance. And I was told by someone that this takes place like the first Saturday of December, and it's all about your loved ones and a little type of a service, and don't miss it. So when, again, the letters came out about the holiday remembrance, I called and said, I'm definitely coming. My sister would like to come with me, and we went. And again, this is probably a great example of what Stygar's is all about. It was the most wonderful tribute to our loved ones that had passed away. It was everyone from the entire year. When we came in, they were doing a slideshow, and it was each of our loved ones accompanied to like a holiday music. And then they did a candlelight service, and of course Dave was the MC for the service, or the officiator. And it was so wonderful. Each of us received an ornament, which was an angel and a plaque on the angel had our loved one's name engraved and their birth date and date of death. So each family was called up individually. They were given the angel ornament and a lit candle, and it was just the most moving thing I've ever been to, and I will never forget it as long as I lived. The Stygars by far just stood out in my mind that they are the best at what they do.
His name was Joshua. We had him very young. We sort of grew up with him. When he was 27, he got in a car accident, and it's just been really hard since then. So, it was 3 days after Christmas, very hard time anyway. I don't know, it's like a whole part of you is gone when something like that happens.
It puts a big hole in you. I mean, you're used to burying your parents, but you never think you're going to bury one of your kids. So it's really hard. It's been hard for 7 years. So I mean, it doesn't get better, but it gets easier.
Well, we had been to Stygars before for his father's funeral, my father's funeral, and so we automatically called Stygars when this happened, and we met with him in the afternoon, and they were great. We actually saw Mr. Stygar himself there, and his team of folks that help him, and they were all just wonderful. And the whole Stygar, the whole team, the whole thing from start to finish, we never had a problem.
One issue.
They were all very, very kind and
personable.
They played the music we wanted, and they did everything that we asked and then some, and we're very glad we went there.
I mean, I was having a rough time, really rough time, and so we started the grief group, and we went to the first one, and it seemed like it was really helping, so we went ahead and did a second one, which really helped us a lot. I mean, we're here, we're able to talk about it without crying, without, you know, we still miss them, but, you know, we understand that, you know,
Life
things
goes
happen
on.
for a reason and life goes on.
They did call us, but I sort of blew them off when they first called because I thought, oh no, we'll be able to do it. And then, so then we contacted him again, and then we went through the Stygars grief group. Didn't know what to expect, because of course we've never been to anything like that. So we were a little, I don't know how you want to say it, not scared, but anxious. You know, you walk into something like that, and but we were hopeful that there were people like us there that would kind of help us through, and we could help them through, and everybody, you know, could join together and heal. And that's what we actually got. We got to talk to people, you know. The family has heard it all, you know, and they heard it all from start to where we were before we started grief. And they were kind of like, they can't do nothing more for you because, you know, they're family. So when we started the grief group, we thought maybe we could get a little bit more than the family could give us, which we got.
And the people was people that you could open up to, which, you know, like the family, you can't, they don't understand it if they don't go through it. So those people understood what we were
going
through and talking about, and that helped a lot because, you know, like she said, we're not the only ones out there that was going through it. So
it helps to talk to people that are going through the same thing you're going through.
I mean, it's been a great journey, and I don't think we could have done it without them, truthfully.
My experience with Stygar Funeral Home was absolutely wonderful. I was a wreck. I didn't know what I was going to do or how everything was going to go. We had looked at the thought of getting our plans done before the time my husband passed, but when everything culminated so fast that I called Stygar and immediately went in there, and they sat down with me and our family members, and they went through every step, and they were so generous about their care and their respect. They wanted to make sure everything was exactly the way that we all wanted it, about everything. Any little thing that I needed, anytime I needed to call and talk, just to talk, they were there. They called me and asked me how I was doing. My experience with the continued care department at Stygar was very, very important. I didn't realize how important it was at the beginning, and I didn't go for a little while, but then I was so beside myself, and my family kept telling me that I needed to go and see them. And I didn't want to talk about it at first when I started the grief group, but it's so calming and everything's so nice and well done that you feel very comfortable. And when you're ready to speak and talk about your loved one and your sorrow, then you'd be surprised how many people are experiencing the same things. It's unbelievable. My experience with David Rispoli has been phenomenal. I have very much appreciated all of his advice and all of his care. He has individually worked with me as well as others and spoken on a level that he immediately makes you feel comfortable, and he understands where you are in your journey, and he wants to be there with you in each step of your journey and to help you and make you feel as comfortable as you possibly can. And I can't imagine my life now without having his guidance and his support.
My wife was 54 when she passed away, and she was in charge of everything. Outstanding, great woman. It's the only thing I can say about her. Can't even put into words how she is. My experience with Stygar's Funeral Home is my wife passed away. I've always seen this location up here by my house, which is on Mid Rivers, where they worked with us, and they were very comforting, didn't pressure, and everything, and made my family feel comfortable. And in that time, we decided we're just going to stay here because of the people that were involved with the whole deal. The biggest thing my family and I felt good about was the care they took in making my wife look good, like she always does. I was sitting at home and I got this mail saying come up for the continued care group. Excuse me. I thought, I don't need to go. So I just forgot about it. And then it came around again, another time. So I said, why not? I'm ready, why not see what happens? But it was more like just listening and talking about the whole deal. So yes, I enjoyed it very much, but he always made you feel comfortable. Dave has a way, if you put Dave and I together, he has a way of making things very calm and collective with his voice.